Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk about relationships and the split that's happening because it's pretty dramatic. Returning to the self. And we're going to talk about old patterns and wounds and how to start healing that more. Anya's got a great new thing that she's doing with that. And we're going to talk about how everybody has a soul tree, just like you have a family tree here on Earth.
Hmm.
So Anya
Beautiful.
is here today and she's with Spiritual Soul Center. So that's her business. And I'm really excited because we haven't seen each other for probably a month or more.
I know. And it
Yeah.
actually does feel like longer at this time. It does feel like we're in this weird speedy up energy with the time sped up, but also then in between meetings and encounters, it is feeling longer because I feel like we're having so much expansion in between and change and growth and releasing, which is making that time seem longer in between, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like it
Yeah.
speeds up so you don't think you have time during the day
No.
to do things. And then you're like, oh, it was so long ago I saw this person. So time is very wonky, and that's because time doesn't truly exist.
Right.
So we
Right.
will come out of thinking about time, I think,
Hmm. And I
eventually.
think that's really interesting. What does that look like to you, honey? Because we hear that a lot, oh, time doesn't exist. And I also believe that. But I guess lately I've been unpicking a lot of things and really embodying it and actually questioning what does that mean to me? What does that look like? So when we're kind of saying that time will exist, what does that look like to you?
To me, it looks like we're kind of floating. So I see this whole existence as a game at this point. And you can speed up time or you can slow down time. So when
Hmm.
I'm having a lot of fun, I will do my best to slow it down. So the
Right.
day lasts a really long time. If I'm really busy, I've noticed that it's very fast. It goes
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
fast. I feel rushed sometimes, and then that speeds the time up
Yeah.
as well. But I see time like a slinky, and
Hmm.
we're on one end of the slinky and we're walking into the slinky. And however spaced apart those little circles are, is how fast or how slow time is going to go.
Interesting. And I really love the way you worded that because it is, in essence, we're not saying that there's not going to still be a concept of time in itself. Like, I guess we'll still have a measurable human thing of
For a
time in
while.
some sense. Yeah, as we're transitioning. And I
Mhm.
guess what that looks like to us may be different to us all because if you live more of a routine, scheduled job that requires time, or children, or life that requires more time requirements, like you say, that might not change at all. But the space in between that time, the space, how long it takes while you're doing that, how long it takes while you're apart, how much you get done, how what you feel, that perception of that time, I feel is what's going to change. And it's really funny you bring this up because I obviously don't get much time without the children. I stay at home with them. They don't go to nursery. So I have to like dance around responsibilities in life and make it work as always. And today I was meeting my mum and driving back, and I'm like counting the hours in my head, like, right, if I get back at this time and I do this, and then I can do, planning it all out. And then the part of me was just like, okay, yeah, I know there's a lot to do, and I know it's in a restricted amount of time, but you can still feel like you had a larger experience rather than a very rushed and confined and pressured one by just changing your perspective. And I was literally thinking that driving back today at dinner time and then throughout the day. And instead of like manically cleaning and then working, I went upstairs and got a bath because I was like, do you know what? Actually, I think I need to just reset my nervous system and reconnect into me, and just figure that out a little bit instead of feeling like I'm always rushing. And so it's to do with time, but it's not. It's more the concept of it. It's more the perception of it rather than the actual experience itself removing. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And if I don't put something on the calendar, a lot of times it doesn't happen
Yeah. Yeah. Me
because
too.
it's not in my awareness because I'm just with the flow, you know.
Yeah. No,
So
sometimes too much myself.
mhm, everything has to go on there. And that's only when I meet other people usually, but I've started to schedule like work on this today
Yeah, me too.
because we get so floaty during this
Hmm.
time of, and there's all this bifurcation going on.
Right.
The timelines are splitting more, and I think it's a great time to bring up relationship. It's
Yeah, I
been really
do.
interesting. Friendships, relationships with spouses, family members, all of that has become really kind of intense at the moment, depending on what timeline you're looking at. So if they're on a very different timeline than you are,
Yeah.
then the relationship is getting kind of rocky, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. No, it is. And it's a weird one because it kind of gets me a little bit excited because I feel like things are actually shifting. But in the same sense, my human does struggle with it. And just to finalize what we were saying there on the timelines and the loops and time slowing down, there's the final thing there. It does feel like we are being given this opportunity to reflect on the different versions of us and looping that into the relationships and everything. It's like we are shifting into a more zoomed out perspective whilst being in that relationship, whilst healing on our journey at the moment, because to get to the next level in these relationships, it's all about the embodiment. I mean, how many years have we all spent either consciously or subconsciously clearing the way, of his own wounds, of his own traumas, of his pain, of his ego, of his thought patterns and jobs and choices in life that might not be the best thing for us. And we've been clearing this way so long. Now we're faced at this crossroads of we have done as much internal work, I feel like, as we can input before we have to actually do something and change it and allow them that work that we've done to actually physically be embodied into the human life, into our experience. But that looks like things changing, falling apart, things being brought up to the surface that have been hidden for how many years? Because if it's not in alignment, it has to be brought up to the surface. And that doesn't mean that, oh, everyone's relationship has to end or everything has to be, just big drama. I think the point of it is meant to, we do that as humans, but the point of it is meant to be to look differently, to perceive things differently now, to come out of this either shaping from an anger perspective of, oh, there's all in your own, not victim, but sometimes we do get caught up in that, like, oh, this is so bad. Why are they doing this to me? Being able to see actually where you're contributing to choosing this
Mhm.
experience, this person, this environment, to contribute to that. Because I used to hate that when people said to me, oh, you're creating your own reality. But when I do get a lot of customers come to me around relationships, one of the main things I ask is like, what is your goal? What is your end goal here? Because it's great that you're feeling that you want to speak your truth, and I'm not here to shut that down. I want you to speak it. But also, how useful is it keep repeating the same thing over and over again without doing anything about it, without actually honoring the version of you that is angry, that wants change, that needs stuff to be different? Maybe sometimes we need to listen to that version before it's at that point of, overwhelm and check out. Maybe we need to start listening to the voice that is asking us to choose differently sometimes, because there's so many nuances right now with relationships because we have to come into a divine union. But to do that, we need to become more whole within self, I guess.
Mhm. We do.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it's kind of like think about like the different versions of the person that you've been with, too. We've been changing, and we've also been seeing other people changing. And if they're not changing at all, they're probably not planning on the ascension
Mm.
process
Right.
unless they've been awake for 30 years and they're already there. So think about who you're with and also think about what are you getting triggered by?
Mm.
Because when
Mm.
you're getting triggered, that's an opportunity.
To
That's
heal.
not a reason
Mm.
to just stand there and freak out. that's a
Yeah.
reason to take a breath and to really look at it and say, ooh, I could heal this now.
Yeah. And it is scary in them moments, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel nice. And it's easy to blame someone else. It's easy to go, you made me feel this way. You're the problem. Goodbye. Like, let's be real. It is easy to do that. It's easy to do that with friends, co-workers, family members. I think sometimes in spirituality, there can be this toxic mindset of, if it doesn't serve you, Kurt, put it off. And I'm not saying that that isn't useful in some aspects of life, of course, ex-partners or toxic relationships, of course, yeah, great. But in most aspects of life, it is, I won't say it's very rare, but I think it's more rare than we think, where you have this evil, narcissistic person that is out there to absolutely destroy someone else's life. Again, it happens. I'm not saying it does not happen, it does. But I think what we are seeing sometimes is more inner children triggering inner children and blaming each other, and then someone spinning a bigger victim of story than the other person, because no one had safe space within themselves to actually look at the wounds that were coming up, whether that was communication. Sorry, honey, did you want to add in there?
No, it's like a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. And it's not always meant to be pretty. There's different types of soul bonds. We have some that are more reflective, some that are more harmonious, some that are more chemistry and passionate, some that are long term, short term. It's not one size fits all for relationships. But for me, one thing you said, honey, which was really important, is there growth? Is there any change at all? I'm not expecting a miracle overnight, but is there a recognition, an acknowledgement, an awareness, some sort of, choice and change in the way they are, the way they're speaking, what they might not be doing? Is there a little bit more initiation or a little bit more thought and planning? And I do think that's what you have to actually look for, not expecting a miracle overnight and not expecting everyone to always be at the same level you are at. That's my issue sometimes. I'm like, well, I've worked through this now, so why are you not there? I have to slow down a little bit and think time is important, patience, but also not too long. I'm not prepared to sacrifice my own happiness to wait for someone else to catch up to my level. If that's going to be more than a week or two, we're not sacrificing this long term, because that then has a resentment involved. There's so many nuances to it, and you could really get into the human, but I think it's important, like you said, to look at the energetic contracts that we signed up for with each other, regardless of being romantic or not. Your people, your family, your friends, your partners, they are people we chose to experience things with, even the negative ones. That was all for a reason. And I think once we gain a more 5D awareness of, it's not just about me in this human body and how I've experienced it and how bad and sad it was, that's valid. Okay, but so is this. It's the more that's important that we don't always see in the human until we pass over and we're in that limbo phase and that soul reveal phase. And then we get to see their perspective and their intention and realize that actually, no, it wasn't this awful, evil, intentional thing. It was life, and people make mistakes, and people hurting, and hurt people. And we're all kind of in this wounded repairing phase. And it's not very nice. Everyone's healing and shedding, and if you're living with someone whilst you're both doing that, good luck, because I'm doing that too, and it's not the easiest. It's difficult. And so don't expect yourself to know how to do it or for it to be perfect. As long as you're communicating your needs, they're being heard and at least met in some ways, and growth is being met on both ends. And you're also able to look in the mirror at where your energy, attitude, tone, defensiveness, mindset, dynamic in the relationship might be contributing to this relationship being what it is. Big example is, I've always said I need more support. I need you to take over more things, but then I'm a kind of hyper control freak because of my own experiences to keep myself safe. So I don't allow much room for that, but then I expect it. And so I had to really reflect on, where am I actually not being open to receiving that support and that love? And how can I change that? And lo and behold, then it started coming in. And so it's not always about the external world. It's also about being able to question and look within a little bit and really sit with that on what's coming up and is this right for you moving forward? And if it's not, what does that look like and what does that mean? Not being afraid of being alone. It's not that
Yeah.
scary, you know?
It's not scary. Facing yourself is something that people have been talked out of. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, instead, you should be listening to noise. You should be doing something constantly. And in the US, there's a lot of constant busy movement all the time
Yeah.
that people are
Mm-hmm.
told this is what you're supposed to do. You got to work hard to get ahead. You got to do this, you got to do that. And 60-hour work weeks and lots of crazy stuff. And I know that that goes on in other countries too, but it's really been a big focus in the US.
Yeah, I
And we
felt it
all
when I was
know our
there.
own country a little more than somebody else's country. So keeping that in mind too. But I think the human has been distracted on purpose for so long. And to look in is a little scary at first. But once you start doing it, you just want to be with yourself. You want to figure things out for yourself. And then it actually feels like noise going on outside of you. And you're able to filter, well, I'll accept this kind of noise, but I'm really not interested in this other
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
And we're more sensitive than we've ever been. So we're more aware of other people's stuff. And we make these agreements in the astral plane, and some of them, you could make a week before and be building up to some kind of explosion. Oh, well, I need to learn this. Will you support that? You could be in there with your spouse or whatever, or your one of your family members. Will you support this lesson on this day? Can we get into the nitty gritty, argument or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't tend to think that way. We just think it's all centered here, but it's
Yeah.
not because we're in a game and it's a learning game. So if you're playing on a tablet, or your child is playing on a tablet, or your child is building a Lego village, the being is in charge of what's happening. And that's what we've missed, I think, for most of this.
Yeah.
And that helps you zoom out too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And it also, I mean, just what you were saying there about the noise and stuff, like I struggled with that a long time because I think my brain required kind of overstimulation to feel
Mhm.
calm because there was so much going on in my brain. So I've always had music on in the background or a noise to have a focus on. I learned things like masking techniques in school when I was doing GCSEs and exams and stuff on like ways that my brain responded to better and different. And I just thought everyone was like that until like you're around people that you know clash with them things. And I remember going to therapy years ago when I was about 19 and telling my therapist, oh yeah, I would never walk anywhere without headphones on. And she kind of just looked at me and she sat there and she was like, I really need you to work on that over the next few months. She's like, just start walking places without your headphones and start being with yourself a little bit more. And I remember thinking, like, how can I do this? This is so unnatural and abnormal. And like you say, we're so programmed to be in this world of overstimulation all the time, especially since the rise in technology and always having this device that we're attached to and dependent on 24/7. We don't have that natural circadian rhythm with the lights and there's natural setting with the sun and rising with the sun. We'd moved away from that slightly and we're connected to this artificial system. And even now, my brain struggles. If you were to say, go get in bed, lay in silence and go to sleep, I think I'd be up till about 5 a.m. Honestly, it's just not a vibe. But I found ways and flows that work for my overactive brain to also go within. And again, things like bass, things like, certain meditation music, frequency musics. It doesn't always have to be, if you are someone that does struggle to sit down, because I am still working on that paradigm of balancing the rest and the work and not having to be earning rest. That's one code I'm letting
Mhm.
go of at the moment. And to do that, sometimes I'm just allowing music to be a great space in between because it's not too overwhelming for me. It's usually frequency music and it's not too quiet. So I'm not sat there feeling like I should be doing something, but also it's a nice little space. And art is great. Just create some art.
Yeah.
That's my thing. If I need to sit down and rest, but my brain's going at it, I do art. I paint, create, do clay, create jewelry, do something that's stimulating for the brain but allows the body to rest. Just find balance, find the middle ground.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun one.
It's really
But yeah,
fun.
yeah, I think in just going back to that was just a side note because like when you said it, I thought about it. I was like, to be honest, sometimes I do still struggle with that, with the quiet. And I hated being on my own for majority of my life until like the past say 8 to 10 years. Like you say, meeting myself again and getting to know her again and not being afraid of being alone. Like today, just having the day to myself. I know I have work to do, but a small part of my brain's like, oh, well, you could invite a friend over because there's still that small code running. And I have to reparent that version, be like, no, you don't need to do that. Like, you don't have this fear of being in your own space anymore. That's an old paradigm. And I think that's kind of looping through all the things we've said. And also with the workshop day I'm doing, this new pattern technique that I've been doing is recognizing these wounds, having a technique, which I'll teach you guys when we do, if you come to the workshop day, to identify consciously the subconscious wounds and patterns that you might not even know are actually running the show. Because if your nervous system does not feel safe to receive it, you are never going to receive it because it's an unfamiliar, panicky territory to the body and the mind and the soul. And so I've really been working with talking to them versions and finding out ways to communicate with them in the conscious mind, identifying the wounds, where they are in the body and which version, and then doing some magic, some spiritual work, some human work, some embodiment, nervous system reprogramming, whilst being consciously awake though. And it is quite fast. So it doesn't take like hours and hours to do. This is something you could do one a day. And then imagine where you'd be in 6 months' time when you're removing one core wound and limiting belief every single day. Like this could completely reshell you. And so this is why I really wanted to bring, I don't know what that is, reshell you. What I seen was emerging out of a shell, like a
Yeah.
newborn version of you. That was not a word, but there you go. Yeah, I want to give that option for you to do it yourself. One of my biggest things is reflecting your own power back to you because that was so important to me on my journey. I don't need someone to fix me. I need to remember who I am. I needed to remember my power. I needed to remember my capabilities, who my little soul is, and the things in between, the techniques on how to connect with that. And that's what I like to bring and offer. And so, yeah, going back to the time, this gives us all the different versions of us with the inner child. It will help with relationships because it will help you be able to sit with yourself, your patterns, your wounds, your resistance, maybe your dynamics of where you're coming at. For me, it's been a big one shifting out of being in more of a masculine role in my relationship, out of safety and protection rather than a necessity and choice. And so that's been a big part of working with this to heal the versions of me throughout time, the pockets, but then also to help my current relationship and relationship with self. And yeah, it's just helping me come back home to me because it's removing the safety things. 90% of my core wounds are safety, but different versions that didn't feel safe for different things. And so it's really getting to know them again and reparenting them and giving them the option because, like you said at the beginning, time is not linear. It's like the slinky, like you said, and we can physically choose to visit them pockets at any time we want with the right intentions and the right techniques. And a lot of the time, when you're having these memories later on, these visions of people visiting you and saving you, what if that is you? What if that is future you that is coming now to do all that work and heal them versions of you? And the person you've seen saving you before was actually yourself in this now moment, the version of you that's choosing now to invest in yourself and to heal. And so I am really, really excited to be able to bring that to you guys. It is in the UK. It is called Reprogram and Reparent. It's in Settle in North Yorkshire. It's at a beautiful manor it's called Falcon Manor. So it's got birds and, you know me, with my son being called Phoenix. So it's on my vibe. And it's got some really nice grounded energy. I went with some energy workers. We've cleansed the land. We've done some energy work. And we will be doing a little bit of grid work there just to show you guys how to be doing that. And so you can take that off with you and continue doing that as you go. This day is really going to be about stepping into your power by learning different techniques on how to return back to you. And yeah, to just kind of bring it back, it is time to embody it. So whether that is, honoring yourself, making choices to choose differently, to leave, to maybe speak up and ask for more, ask for change, finally, or whether that is maybe reflecting on how you may be contributing and working on self a little bit at this time instead of trying to focus on the relationship and fixing them. Focus on fixing you and see if you adjusting your frequency allows the partner and the relationship to adjust its frequency to match where you're now at in this new healed frequency, rather than making it an outside problem. Focus inside and see what happens. There's many different approaches to this. Just channel in and see what's best. Like I keep going back to it, it is embodiment. So try and find a way that feels the nicest to honor in your body.
So important. Yeah, I used to have a thing on the fridge. So I've been doing a different version of that work for a long time.
Yeah.
And yours is more speedy, which is going to be really good for people. And I think we're ready for more speedy at this point.
Right. Because I wouldn't have been ready
yeah.
for that a few years ago, but this feels like a compartmentalized of all the work we do in a shortcut version, like a shortcut to the subconscious mind. And it's new for me, but it's not new what I'm doing. I've been doing that before, but the way I'm doing it now in the process with it all combined, that's what feels different. And I just think it makes it more accessible, not just to healers and readers and channelers. Anyone can learn how to do this. You don't need to be an advanced spiritual with all this knowledge. It's simply a shortcut to your own subconscious mind and reparenting them versions. And it is very simplified the way I've kind of broke it down. So don't be put off by thinking you need to be at a certain level. You really don't. You just need to be open to healing your stuff. And so, yeah, sorry. Thank you, honey, for mentioning that.
No, it's really important. I used to have on the fridge, like, clear a limiting belief. So every morning I was doing that. And it really is so important because basically what you're doing is, if you think about the subconscious mind like a computer, then you have all this programming running in there. And do you know what's going on in your computer? I mean, most people don't. So to be able to connect to it is huge. And you can basically reprogram, because you first have to clear, and then you have room for better stuff to come in. So that's how we're changing the world, is we're changing our habits, our programming, and everybody's probably working on some of the biggest things that they've ignored right now.
Right.
So like for me, it's been finally figuring out my human body, right? And so from birth, and probably, before birth, from birth, I was basically sick. So all the way, there's been all of this like physical stuff. And now I'm figuring out the root cause. So I figured out the root emotional cause.
Right.
And that was very, very deep and had to go back to the womb. And now I'm clearing the physical things that accumulated. So,
exactly.
yeah, it's really important, all this stuff.
No, it is.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just agreeing.
Okay. But I want to talk about the soul tree a little bit, because I feel like it's time for us to start to find like souls.
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing.
Yeah. So there's several different soul groups, and we're going to learn how to communicate together as well.
Yeah.
But your soul tree, just like your family tree, is your family. And when you're in your soul group, when you're hanging out with your soul group, there's no need to clarify. There's no need, like, it's just so easy. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like, to me, I always wanted to go home when I was little.
Yeah.
And I knew home was not Earth. So I was like, I just want to go home. I don't like it. I really wasn't enjoying myself when I was little. And I was really ready a lot of the time to get out. And when I
Yeah.
had my near-death experience, I was like, can I go? And it's like, are they going to be okay if I go? And I got no. And I was like, oh,
Oh, damn.
so then I went back. But just knowing that you have this beautiful family and also allowing for them to start to come in so that you
Yeah.
can have friendships that are easy, relationships that are easy. That's where your divine partner is. They're the other half of you. So you know, they're a part of your soul. So having that is so cohesive, beautiful, easy, calm, all of those things. And as you work through all your stuff, it's easier and easier to attract them in because you're more and more the actual being that you are. That's the
Yeah.
return to self.
Right.
So, good places to find people at this point are online. Um, I have a social media group, called
Yep.
Step Into Your Power. So I think,
Lovely.
and that's
Brilliant.
about spiritual stuff.
Yep.
And that seems to be a big theme right now. And it's not that you're like, oh, I have superpowers and I'm going to like use my lightning. That is not what it is. It's about being you.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's one of the driving forces I have. I was sat there the other day because I'm weirdly weirdly enough, it's all aligned. I'm going down to meet Gillian in England. I'm not sure if you know Gillian. She works with Mark a little bit. She's really lovely. She does a lot of energy work and land work. I met her at
Yep.
Manchester a few years ago, lovely lady, and we do videos every now and then. Anyway, so I was arranged to go down and meet up with her, do some clearing energy work, which I'm really excited about. And then it just so happened I was doing a stall the day after, which is in the same direction. So it all just worked out perfect. But I was sat there the other day and I was reflecting on everything. My books come in physical form, my ebook that I wrote in 2022 for the stall. And I was reading through it and I was just looking at how far we've come from 2022 and like the journey in between. And it really reminded me of why I have, out of anything, started off a tarot card reader, then a psychic, a medium, a channeler, a healer, all the things in between, you name it, I've tried it and done it. And my main, most drive-driven thing that I love to do is to run events. And I think that's really funny when I look at myself, like I wouldn't have ever predicted that before. But what it is for me is that feeling when everyone's together. It's that sense of, I feel like my body just breathes a little bit deeper than usual, and I think I'm quite lucky because I think the way I knew coming into this, I knew that I couldn't come in the older generation because I could not last that long, not a chance. And I knew I couldn't really live a 3D life. So I didn't. I became a tarot card reader at 17 years old. And then I studied criminology before that. So it wasn't really that, I didn't immerse too much in the 3D world ever. And I feel like my family, a lot of them are my soul family. I'm not saying like I've got a lot more, but I have such a deep connection with my human family. And I think that's quite rare for a lot of us as light workers, especially what I've experienced with people. Like you don't often see a belonging. And I will admit that as a child, I did not feel like I want to leave Earth. I felt like this really deep belonging here and to my people, like my brother, my mum, my dad, my cousins. Like I've just felt this deep desire to need to be with these people and to need to do what I'm here to do on Earth. And I remember being about 16 to 18 when I really got into the world and meeting a lot of people that were saying like, I just want to go home, I just want to leave. And I remember thinking like, why don't I feel like that? Like, what's wrong? Why am I not like that? And I sat with it over the years. And I remember thinking, why does my higher self not come as like my ET form? Why do I not have this ET belonging? Because I work with ETs and I connect with ETs and I know I've been an ET many times. but I didn't seem to have this like one resonance, one group, one planet, anything. And when I really deeped it, my higher self always comes looking like me in this human. And I thought, is that just my perception of it? But I asked her and she said, no, we like this form. And so it made me laugh that I actually enjoy this body, this life. I enjoy the grit of earth, the water, the fire, the energy, all of it, when it's not being manipulated and used in a bad way. I actually enjoy the raw form of earth. I love it. And I love the shamanic, grounded just energy that it brings me in my bones. And I do feel a really deep belonging here. So I feel like I'm a little bit of an odd one out to the soul tribe group, because I don't have that. But I know that I have met people like you, honey, that I'll never forget the day we met, when I was just having my own little mentee bean, and then you just sat down in front of me and I was like, hi. We just ended up chatting about timelines and life and all the things. And it's just a knowing when you meet someone and you might have doubt, you might have questions, you might not know how, what, where, why, when, but that's so deeply. And that's all the thing you do know in that moment. And, I've had times like that throughout my life, especially as I've got more consciously aware into my journey. And I just think you can't deny it. You can't mistake it. You can't think it's something when it's not. You'll know if you've met your people. It's an instant connection. It's an instant resonance, an instant be able to be self, letting your body down, the guards, the safety, the masks, the protections, and it's an effort and a relationship you don't need to maintain. You don't need to force it. Like you say, me and Honey, we haven't spoke for a couple of weeks. We get on, it's like we chatted yesterday, same with Z, same with so many of these beings that I've met and that I know are my soul family. And I just guess it's trusting. The more you step into your authenticity, which when we talk about stepping into your power, kind of the same thing. If you step into your authenticity, that will bring you your puzzle piece. Every single one of us is coded with our magic, our piece of the puzzle to this ascension, to this journey. But unless we're living by playing our own tune instead of trying to mimic someone else's or fit in with the crowd, then that magic cannot be seen even by self. And so when we say step into your power, it's step into who you are. What does that look like without the fear, without the filter, without the restriction, without the concern of judgment? And what's it going to be like when I'm seen and I'm judged? I experience it too. I'm not saying I don't have it, but it's questioning that. Who is she? Who is they? That he, she, underneath that mask of protection. And once you get to know them, start to embody it, start to live it, your people just find you like magnets, because they can't be attracted to something they can't see. So if you're not living it, you're not playing it, you're not vibrating in it, they can't see it. So when they can see it, you'll find each other, and vice versa. So it's happening. And yeah, I'd say be online, connect, go, find the things that there's so much more out there. When we were ascending, I remember searching for 5D ascension, and it brought up something about fitting wall fittings on your wall. There were nothing on anywhere to do with anything to do with 5D. And that was like 12, 15 years ago. And now there's all sorts. It's incredible. And there's communities everywhere. And like Honey says, Honey's got the most incredible online community. We've got a Tuesday night group that we do every Tuesday night, that we do to connect you in with it's different every night. It's every Tuesday. This week it was on spirit guides. Last week it was on connecting with ETs and voicing. Sometimes it's about your own internal stuff. I really just channel it in that week to see what's coming up for the collective and for us. So I do have a kind of an advanced Tuesday night group where we go very deep, like very deep stuff. But if you're feeling a little bit more like you just need to learn the basics, I also have a beginner's night on a Thursday. And it's not necessarily beginners. It's just more, let's cover the basics: protection, mediumship, psychic. Let's go over things that maybe we don't all know because we wasn't taught them. And get to know each other, create communities, really. So they're online. And then, we have the workshop day coming up for reprogramming the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, with the conscious mind, and really getting to know yourself underneath that. That's one day. Then we have another workshop day, but it's more for families. So it's for kids, mums, parents, families, everybody. Just to connect, really. It's very forest school vibes, very nature, connecting in with the bugs, bit of story time, everything. That's in Leeds in August. And then we've got the retreat in September. So if you are feeling drawn to really surrender into serenity, and I mean that you will be surrendering stuff to find peace. We'll have to let it all go.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're going to be running a 4-night, 5-day immersive retreat in Crete, where we're really going to be diving deep into all of this combined. And yeah, just finding out who you are and allowing you to find inner peace. So it is out there. There is community out there. It's just being open to allowing yourself to receive it, and not coming from a fear-based perspective.
Exactly. And the
Mm-hmm.
clearer you are, the more likely your soul is going to arrange for you to start meeting your soul family.
Yeah.
So just kind of keeping that in mind. Sometimes, in the past, our soul family has been the antagonist. Some
Yeah,
of
right.
them have been teaching us the biggest lessons.
And what
And
gratitude.
yeah,
Mm.
and to have gratitude for that. You know, I was taught things like betrayal and those kind of things, and the whole collective would go through it at the same time.
Right? That's
So
so weird when that
everybody
happens.
would get to deal with betrayal, or everybody would get
Hmm.
to deal with, some other thing that was going on. And right now, we've really come a long way.
Hmm.
So,
Huge.
yeah, it's almost like a lifetime has been lived every single year since 2020.
Right. Literally.
And we've really graduated into something that's getting more beautiful every day.
Mm.
So I'm truly excited for everything. And I think
Me
it's
too.
great what you're doing because it's now time to create.
Right. I'm feeling
Yeah.
that. I had a year off with the babies last year. The last event we did was when me and you, honey, did our beautiful gathering, which had revelations. We all, again,
Mhm.
soul family, we all love each other deeply, but there was so much learned on that experience for us that we're facilitating for those that
Yeah.
came. We had the most beautiful, expansive times. We cleared energy. We had to work through stuff in his own self. There's so much. And every event, every retreat, every gathering brings something deeper. And I just don't know. I woke up. I woke up this year. I don't know. This beginning of this year just felt like a drive again. That fire horse energy was coming back in, and I just naturally follow the energy. And I have been a little bit out of it. I've not been consistently on YouTube. I've not been consistently doing sessions every day for you the past few years. I have been, reconnecting back in with me, being finding out who I am now. I'm a mother, and healing my nervous system a lot. I've been doing a lot of work on that. And yeah, I feel ready now. I feel ready to hold that space again in that way. And I feel very drawn to offering that. I'm very much trying to balance it with my human life. I'm not doing so well over there, but I'm giving it a go, and I'm just finding new things, new ways to bring who I am and what I want to bring to this earth, and not be afraid to hide it anymore. I'm really working on my music. I'm stepping into that a lot more. I'm singing so much more, and I'm just finding my voice in all aspects. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes. Like you say, honey, it feels like finally it's becoming real.
Yeah.
All the planning, the prep, the energy work, everything a soul has been building up for not just this lifetime, many lifetimes and
Mhm.
beyond. It feels like it's finally happening. It might not be overnight, as we've all established by now. It's not just going to be an ascension overnight. But what it is a a mass conscious awakening. And that is evident if you look at how many people talk about things that did not exist other than in our brains a
Mhm.
couple of years ago, the ways of schooling, the forest school aspect, that's coming up huge in the UK. Like mainstream schools are integrating it a lot. And so it's coming. The things are coming, they're changing. It's just not overnight. And zooming out is really important. I had to do it today. I get in my imposter, I get in my ego, I get in my fears. We're all human. I'm not a miracle worker. I still experience my own shit. We're all there. And I laid in the bath and I was like, right, okay, how can I zoom out? How can I just look at this from a different perspective instead of being so in it? And sometimes that's all you have to do is set the intention. You don't need to wait for this miraculous revelation to come. Ask, how can I zoom out right now? What can I do that allows me to shift my perspective a little bit? And for me, it was remembering that who I am and what I'm bringing is ready to come to the earth now. So stop stressing about the human stuff. Just allow it to be.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It will work itself out if you just allow
Mhm.
it to.
Yeah.
And zooming out is so big, it will change your life. they say it's much bigger than the IQ is the EQ. And the EQ is someone that is able to look at themselves, to actually see themselves. And it's your emotional ability that really helps. So that ability to zoom out is huge. I can't even describe how big it is.
Hmm.
And um, I just love this conversation. This was great. So
It was
if
so
you
fun.
are interested in Anya's offerings, I'm going to have them all below.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited that you're doing this because
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot like that that I know of going on
No, I
in
hear you.
England. Yeah. So
There isn't.
mhm,
There's a lot of
it's a
yoga
beautiful
stuff and
thing.
there's a lot of wellness stuff, and I like that and I love that. But you know me, we either go deep or we go home. So I feel like
Yes.
I'm bringing a lot of that opportunity to bridge. And like I said, it's not too deep that you're not going to comprehend it. It's just maybe a little bit deeper than what's been currently going on. And so, yeah, I'm excited. And not all of them are like that. That's why we've got different options, meet us where you're at. And all of it, all the events are on spiritualsoulcenter.com. And we do have another branch, which is the digital hub, which is launching, which has all the online offerings, the ebook, the affirmation cards, the products, everything else. And you can also find in the UK, we're doing a lot of stalls and talks. So we will be at the Awaken Spirit, Mind, Body, Soul Festival, I believe, on this weekend, but I believe this video will be out after that. But there's so many more coming up. So you'll find it on the website. There's loads. We've got some all over the UK, and we'll be doing a lot of free talks. So do come along and join us and, get a little bit of magic. You can come and see us in person and connect with us because we are traveling around different points in the UK. So do check out the website and just drop me a message if you are local and, you want to get in touch and connect. And yeah, I'm excited to get back out into the world again after I've come out of my little cocoon of healing. I feel like I'm ready to be seen again now.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you so
No,
much,
thank
Anya.
you.
Yeah.
No, thank you, honey. Have a lot of
Okay,
love.
everybody.
See you
Bye. Love
soon.
you.
Bye.